Okay, we are getting started here, and I see a few people have come on, and as people roll in here, do me a favor. I want to be sure everything's working. So let's be sure that we got you guys on YouTube. Hopefully, the link redirected over to YouTube, and you're all good. So in YouTube, I'm looking over here at the live chat thing, and I'm going to type in. Let's see. Hello, can you hear me? And can you see me? I want to know that. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Let's be sure everything is good. Type it into the chat box over on YouTube, and hopefully everything is working the way it should be. If you're still over on Webinar Jam, okay, hey Greg, I see you here on Webinar Jam. Okay, can you hear me and everything? Moose, Myron, what's going on? And are you guys on YouTube? I type so slow. Okay, if you're not on YouTube, click the YouTube link so you can get over here. Okay, you guys don't have the YouTube link. Okay, let me do it again. I posted a YouTube link at the top. Did you guys click on it? Yeah, you can hear me, but okay. And obviously, this didn't automatically forward you to YouTube like it should have done. So there is a link. Hold on, and I'm gonna get you guys into it. Let me copy this link to YouTube to where I'm streaming, and I'll paste it in again. Okay, let's go over here, and I'm gonna paste it into the chat real quick. And you guys click on that. YouTube will definitely be a better experience. Okay, I just posted the link in there, and let me switch over to me so you can see me. Okay, I posted the YouTube link. Do me a favor when you get over there, hit the type something in the chat so that I can tell that you are there. Okay. Type something in. Okay, I see Greg. Okay, cool. Greg is there. So good. At least the link is working. And okay. What's up? Okay, we got okay, good, good. We are good. I love it. Okay. Yeah, I'm finding that this is the better way to work. We can start in the other session so we can talk and communicate and then switch you over to here, and, until I find a better solution or whatever that actually handles audio the way I like it up to my standards. Okay. So anyway, good. I want to welcome you guys here. Do me a favor and type in the chat box and let me know. First of all, do you have a? Did you? Are you one of the people that upgraded that your song hasn't been heard yet? Today I'm going to be doing the first song I'm going to be doing is by Pete Slicker by Kaishona. Kaishona, what's her last name? Kaishona Armstrong. That's gonna be the first song. Then I got another song in there, and I just want to be sure I don't miss anybody because not everybody got their songs into me, or maybe I didn't receive them via the email with all the craziness going on. So I want to be sure if you're on here and if you paid for the upgrade where you want me to definitely highlight your song, let me know. We took care of Greg yesterday, and so just let me know. Okay, so let me check one thing, guys, and then we'll go ahead and get started right away. Myron, um, are you on YouTube? I don't see you over on YouTube, Myron. So go to YouTube and type something in so I can be sure that you are getting through. A Moose, type something in, same thing, so that I can be sure that everybody is on YouTube. Okay, everybody go to YouTube. Put the YouTube link, and then I'm going to go ahead and get started. Type it in one more time. For anybody that comes on late. Okay. Get in there, and okay, so now I'm going to just go ahead and stay over on YouTube. Sterling, hello, hello, perfect, perfect. Okay, so anybody else that doesn't make it, whatever, I will probably check in a little bit, but right now, so that we don't waste time, we're going to be on here for probably a little, around an hour, a little bit more, and cover a few more songs and everything. If you upgraded to get your song definitely highlighted and everything, make sure that you let me know if you're on here today. So I want to be sure that I actually have your song. And if I don't have it, you can send it to me now. So anyway, I'm going to get in here and talk about Pete Slicker sent me a song. But the artist says Kaishona Armstrong. I guess that Armstrong. I guess it's Kaishona Armstrong. Okay, so I want to play this song, and I'll give you guys my thoughts and insights and everything. So before I do anything, let's talk and set a couple of things like we had yesterday. What's the first plugin? Answer in there. What's the first plugin we should use? Type it in. I want to see if you guys were paying attention. What's the very first plugin we should use before anything else? Type it in, folks. Type it in. All right, all right. Waiting on y'all. There's a little bit of a delay, so. Imagination. That's it. That's it. You guys were paying attention. Okay, I like that. I like that. That's good. We're going to do the imagination plugin first thing as we listen to this. So before we get going too, I want to double check with you. Do you have something to write with? Take notes, an idea sheet. It's good to have it up in your mind when you can hear it, but things fleet and go so quick. So as you hear different things, and as I say things and you write it down, but not so much what I write down what pops into your head. So that way that you lock it into your brain by doing a physical movement, tying it into your brain, and it'll really be good. Okay. Okay, so perfect, perfect. We're gonna get on there and we're gonna use our first plugin now and listen to this. So this song is Kaishona Reynolds, and we will hit play. Hopefully you guys can hear it okay. If you can't hear anything, let me know in the chat.
It seems like yesterday I was on my own. I was lost and wondering which way to go. Then you came and changed my heart. You helped me see the beautiful I couldn't find inside of me. One look and you set me free. I held on to the darkness and regrets. Now I watch them disappear. I'm done with all the heartache and mistakes, letting go of all my fears. What was I hiding from? I thought I was the only one. Got the sunshine, I'm alright. No love has got me here. Everybody got a story that needs to be told. It's hard to go against the wind and stand on your own. If you just believe in that fire within, the beautiful inside of you will rise in the end. Trust me, I've stood where you stand. I held on to the
Okay, beautiful song, great job. Um, yeah, yeah, that's one of those songs. That's one of those songs that are a pleasure for somebody like me to mix because very high quality. The vocalist sounds great. You know, um, the music and performance is great, and everything is right in there. So there's a lot of potential. And this rough mix doesn't sound bad at all. But like I said, this is where we're gonna go ahead and use our first plug-in, and that's imagination, because and I want to get this. This is going to be interactive because I want to get you guys. The key to going to that next level with your music, whether you're doing it for yourself or whether you're doing it for clients, is you have to get out of the easy part, which is what it is because you're hearing it clear in your head and everything. But you need to get into the experience of the listener. That's what it's all about. What is the listener really going to get to and feel, and why would they feel it? And here's the other thing for the listener, stepping out and looking at them and knowing the elements that are inside of your song. What I always do is I want to see what will be important to them, what tugs at their heartstrings, what plays with their emotions, what catches their ear is something different and unique. All these little things are usually in the song or need to be manufactured in the song. So this song has a lot of stuff that we can deal with within that framework. So first of all, before I go, like I said, I want this to be a little bit interactive. So, you guys, anybody have any ideas of what you think from your imagination plugin that you just put in? What are some of your first thoughts that you think would help this song and elevate it where it needs to go? Um, I'm just curious to see how you're thinking, and then I'll tell you how I'm thinking, and we'll put it all together to supply it to everybody so that we can help, take the process. You can use this over and over and over again. They say rinse and repeat, like in the wash cycle. You were just going to do it again and just keep making it better and better, cleaner and cleaner. Um, Type some stuff in and let me know what are some of your thoughts on this. Make this a nice little interactive session. One of the first things that I want to say about when you got a great vocalist like this, vocal quality, and somebody that can perform, is it's important to keep the vocal right there front and center. That the vocal is a star. Remember, I always talk about, a song with a vocal, the star performer is going to be the vocal naturally. And then we get into who's the star performer within the band, the foundation that holds up everything behind us. So this vocal obviously needs to be right there, but because this has that inspirational type of sound to it and everything, it also needs to have a big bedding behind it, and a lot of support that sounds fat. So a couple of the things that I say, I would encourage you to get a piece of paper, if you don't already have one, draw a line down the middle of the paper. And then on the left side, put all the things that, you know, things that might be issues, challenges, problems, things that you may need to decrease in, you know, in their effect as far as having a problem. Do that on the left side of the line. And then on the right side of the line, list some things that you think might increase quality, the clarity, the punch, all these little things, so that you can kind of get a clear idea of what each one's going to do. And if you start thinking about stuff like that, I'm just looking at here to see. Nobody's got no ideas, huh? Okay, all right. Well, I guess I'm on my own. I'm flying solo. I'm trying to get y'all guys interactive here, but I understand if you just want to kick back, that's fine. But trust me, when you go back and if you rewatch this or when you go back and mess with your thing, try to get into this process and deal with it. Okay, so let's start it out, and I'm going to go back into the song, and I'll just tell you what my thoughts are. Okay, like I said, because this is inspirational and aspirational. It's one of those songs where I have to make sure that the elements that I put on are lifting up and driving like I needed to do. So the song starts out with the piano.
It seems like yesterday I was on my own. I was lost and wondering which way to go. Then you came and changed my heart. You helped me see the beautiful I couldn't find inside of me.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop right there from the intro. Beautiful intro. Okay, Greg, I'm coming back. I'm seeing the things. Greg said the lead vocal was quite out front, which was probably intentional. If the gospel feel could be bigger, that's what the singer-songwriter is going for. It can be bigger if that's what the singer-songwriter is going for. Absolutely. But with the feel of this song and my take on it, yeah, the vocal definitely needs to be very clear and out front. So it obviously starts that way. The song starts out that way, and I think that's what they were going for: big out front vocal and everything, and the 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 band behind it, needs to be big, and it is big in spots. But that's the key. It's big in spots. It kind of loses, it goes up and down, and it needs to have full support. So starting with this intro that I just played, with the piano intro and the vocal, that is very telling right away. So what I want you guys to listen for, like, for example, let me play this piano here from the beginning, and then just listen to the piano.
It seems like yesterday I was on my own. I was lost and wondering which way to go. Then you came and changed my heart. You helped me see the beautiful I couldn't find inside of me.
Okay, so what did you guys notice about the piano? I don't know, Greg, if the singer is also the pianist. I think it's a separate thing. This was submitted by Pete, and the singer is, I keep forgetting her name, Kai Shona. um, so, I'm suspecting that it's a separate artist and producer, engineer, whatever. It sounds like there's different people involved here, but yeah. The gospel feel needs to be a little bit bigger. And this, what's going on here? I got this here, so excuse me for popping your ear, guys. Excuse me. The gospel feel could definitely be bigger, and the vocal, piano, and it all starts with this intro, and then we'll get deeper into the song where there's more stuff going on. But everything's set up with that piano, as far as being the support for the vocal. Okay, so the one thing about the piano, the first thing that I'm listening to and I hear is that the piano is very, very dynamic. Okay, so they're playing, different little things jumping out and all that. So that can be problematic. We're probably going to have to bring that under control a little bit, right away, because you want all the stuff that they're playing so that you can hear the subtleties, between the left hand and the right hand, and the dynamics of how hard they're digging in as opposed to it. Now, I'm not saying, so we're not going to talk about trying to crush it in a way where it takes away those dynamics too much, because this is also by being having that inspirational feel to it is like it needs to sound natural. So a couple of things that I probably won't do that I take off of my list that I wouldn't even do is because I want the piano to sound relatively natural, which it sounds now, is not make it too bright, not make it brittle and cut through, not squash it so that you can hear everything, but all the dynamics of the performance are out. I'm not going to do any of that because this song does not call for that. There's going to be a decent amount of instruments coming in there, so you want to make sure that the piano can be heard through to break through all of that. But you don't want to take away the natural ebb and flow that's going in the dynamics of the playing, because this is what sets up everything, So the piano right away is a star player as far as the instruments are concerned. So we want to make sure we maintain what the spirit of that piano is. And that's a natural sound, so it's a little more dark sounding. My imagination is telling me that when we've got some other things in there, because it is more natural sounding and it's got more low mid stuff that can potentially build up with other things, I may look at it to see if I need to dip and scoop anything out to just make it a little bit clearer and all that, which I probably will. I'm already hearing areas. But here's the key is I'm not going to do all this stuff first. See, this is my imagination plug-in in first. I'm making my mental notes of this is what I might want to attack. But what I want to do is maintain what is already here. What is already here sounds good, sounds natural. So I don't want to overdo it. Don't strip all the life out of it. Don't try to process it to make it all this big perfect thing right away, because it's about the song. It's not about the piano sound by itself. It's not about her vocal sound. That's the mistake that a lot of people make, is they go in and thinking about trying to get the best sound instead of always working in context of everything working together. So to me, this piano can sound natural. This piano has a lot of dynamics and maybe needs to have a little less, but I don't need to super squash or crush it. Just a little less to bring everybody a little more so I can hear those little subtleties. Now, let me show you the subtleties again. I'll play it one more time. So, wait, let me start. You hear that? Ding, ding, and then the quiet. Ding, ding, ding. Ding, ding, ding. It popped out. Then it's low.
It seems like yesterday.
See, so all that's cool. So like I said, I want to hear those little nuances happen, but they're just so far away from each other that you can easily lose all of that if you don't, kind of bring them a little closer together with your dynamics control. So we still want to hear it, but it doesn't have to be quite as wide as that. So we can hear him digging in and pushing out. And then that'll make everything come up. Plus, it'll make the piano sound a little bit bigger in the front and all that, but without overdoing it where you can hear the compression that's going on. But that's one of the first things. Now we get into my thought process is, okay, what kind of how will I compress this signal? There's several ways. Okay, so the first obvious way is we can put a compressor on. But guess what? For my imagination plugin telling me the next plugin may not necessarily need to be a compressor, even though I need compression. So what am I going to do? So my first instinct would be to put a tape machine plugin. Remember, tape is a compressor too. So that'd be my thing, to maintain a natural feel of that piano on there without having obvious compression, is as I would do like I did back in the day. You record it on the tape machine. So I'm gonna put that tape plug-in in there, and that should kind of push everything a little bit closer. I will use a formulation in the tape machine to find the right tape formulation or brand of tape that sounds the best for this particular piano. And then I'm also hit it in a certain way so the tape compression comes in. There's a sweet spot as far as how hard I push into it, just like I did on tape. You can push at a certain level, and the tape compression kicks in and starts smoothing things out a little bit more, gelling things a little more together. That's the kind of compression that I think of. Now, most people would ordinarily say, I'm giving you guys all the little nuanced secrets that make sense behind the scenes, because a lot of people would automatically think, oh, okay, put a compressor on the piano, but that has a lot of different meanings. You guys get what I'm saying? The compressor is the just going the act of going through the tape machine, like back in the day when that was the only choice we had. But then we found out that everything kind of gelled together in a real nice way. Things got fatter, richer, punchier in different ways according to how hard or how little, and how we set up and tweak the tape machine and to take the input that's coming into it. So it doesn't have to be a compressor, even though the solution is I need to compress the piano some kind of way to make the dynamics not so far away. So does that make sense to you guys? And let me see, go on here. And Myron was asking, am I referring to the art tape machine or the MCI? What is the art tape machine? ART. Because it doesn't matter. What I'm using is the tape machine. The bottom line is going through tape. Is the thing. It doesn't really matter the brand. Whatever you have it's a tape machine, so it's doing the same thing regardless of the brand. The brands just have slightly different characteristics based on the electronics. But you're not, don't get caught up in the minutia of worrying about what brand it is. I've used MCI tape machines. I don't know what the art tape machine is. I've used Studers and, Ampexes and lots of other different ones that I can't even, I can't even remember the name of some of these machines that I had before or have used. But it doesn't matter, the approach is the same because it's about, I'm trying to use tape compression. That's what you need to remember. Yeah, so Myron, so you're saying which old 2-inch MCI tape machine would change the way the vocals mesh, and that's why I say don't get caught up on it. Doesn't matter if it's an MCI tape machine or what brand of it, because they all got different brands, and every vocalist is different, every instrument is different. So the brand doesn't matter. What it is if you've got tape machine plugins, put a tape machine plugin on and see if it does what you want it to do. I'm not going after the brand of the machine. I'm going after trying to achieve tape compression to smooth out. First of all, we're talking about the pianos, but I might do the same thing because I would probably run that vocalist through a tape machine as well to give that more analog kind of smoothness of the sound. But to me, it doesn't matter. I mean, if I didn't have my Studer tape machines, or I got the Universal Audio Studer tape machine is excellent, and I've got the Ampex and all the other ones. But I've got several other ones that I don't use as much, but they're all just as good. If I didn't have my Universal Audio, my UAD two cards to use any of those, I would just use whatever's available. There's free plugins, there's VST plugins that do the same basic thing. It might not do it quite as, you know, elegantly as Universal Audio does, but I'm just trying to get the job done. The job of what I'm trying to get done is not to brand it with a tape machine sound. I'm trying to get a job of, I'm hearing a piano and I need to have some of those notes that are jumping out and some of those ones that are super quiet to come closer together with a little bit of tape compression. That's the job that I'm going for, okay? So that's the only way I think about it. Don't worry about the brand. It doesn't matter, okay? So then Myron mentioned about in context of the vocal, so I would listen to that as well too. So she starts out and she has the same kind of dynamics thing too. As she gets farther into the song, she's a very powerful sounding singer and everything. So my natural inclination, if it isn't already in their rough mix of what they send me, or if they send me the session, I would look to see, is she going through any kind of tape compression, any kind of analog processes, because I think that would help keep her vocal with the quality that it needs. I'd be thinking of compressors. I'd be thinking of tube compressors or some type of optical compressor that does things a little more smoothly and warmly. I'm gonna think along those lines. I'm going to think uh, if there's anything that's wildly out of control, I might go to some other stuff. But this is a very organic sounding song, analog sounding. So I would start thinking of analog processes that I would normally use if I was in a big recording studio. You said, well, normally I'd run it through the console. I'd run it through some kind of. I might run it through some kind of rack mount unit to warm it up. Run it through certain types of electronics. Maybe some kind of Neve or something like that that we know adds different qualities and characters to it. my mind is going there, but I'm kind of getting off the subject now. Let me continue through here. And now what I want you to hear, let's listen to what's going on with this vocal too. And I'm just making notes here. My imagination plugin. Now, listening to the vocal.
It seems like yesterday I was on my own.
Now I'm listening to two things here.
I was lost and wondering which way to go.
I'm listening to her voice and the dynamics and quality of her voice. And I'm listening to the reverb.
The beautiful I couldn't find inside of me.
Okay, so excuse me. So very beautiful vocal sound, recorded well. She sounds great. So like I said, I would look for the quality that I want that is to have that message right up in your face. You know, it needs to be just like right there, her voice and everything. So it sounds intimate. So because it's what she's talking is very introspective and everything. So I wanted to feel like she's leaning into a friend and getting up close to you and just kind of pouring her heart out right away, talking about all this stuff. So here's the thing that I hear in her vocal. Excuse me. Let me mute this for a second and clear my throat. Yeah, that's not much better, but I sound like a frog, but we'll get through this. Okay. So to get that quality and everything, like I said, I'm thinking in terms of what might I run as far as the first thing on that channel, some kind of process to add that analog tape quality to the process. What else is going to, do I need to keep her vocal kind of leveled? So, because she's getting louder and softer. So I'm going to be thinking, like I said, I'm thinking more analog to warming type of processes, you know. So right away my mind is going to, I might use for controlling that part like an LA2A style type of thing that's going to be a leveling amplifier as opposed to a compressor right away. But as we get deeper in, she gets a little harder, a little more aggressive and things like that. So I know compressor is going to be in there. So my mind and my imagination is telling me that I'm definitely going to need more than one type of compression going on here, you know, each one to do a different part of the job. Okay. So, and you know, let me go on here. The other thing that I was going to mention is the other quality I was listening to is the reverb that's on here right now is delivered to me. So for me, I would take it off. I don't like it, you know, because it's not like it's right or wrong, but I think it can be elevated to the next level. And let me explain to you why. The reverb that's on here, there's two issues that I hear for my ears that are they can be cleared up with simply trying a couple of other things. You know, if say for example, if we were stuck with that reverb, had no other choice, or if they really just like that sound, well then to me the reverb itself needs tweaked a bit. The very first thing that I would do on that reverb is play with pre-delay because the reverb is too close to the vocal. It's right on the vocal. And so what's happening is it's starting to smear her vocal sound immediately, you know. So one of the things that you should do when you're messing with your stuff and playing with reverbs is turn it off and on, bypass it, put it on and everything, and be sure that your vocal is not losing the clarity that it had without it, you know. So this is kind of losing a little bit. So let me play it one more time and listen for that.
I was lost and wondering which way to go. Then you came and changed my heart. You helped me see the beautiful I couldn't find inside of me. One look and you said.
And see how when the bass came in, her vocal got lost right away when she started saying one look, and then the bass came in. And as we get in different things, we're going to start seeing how things get swallowed up here. Okay. But the last point on that reverb is I would use a pre-delay. I use I don't know what kind of reverb they're using on it, but I'm thinking a plate that has a more linear type of decay is going to be better than a hall or things like that, or a chamber or stuff like that that lingers around a little bit more. The plate, we can kind of control it. That's what I'm thinking. But like I said, that's just a guess with my imagination plug in. I may go differently, but that's where I'm first going to go. But the main thing on the reverb is I want to detach the reverb from her vocal. Now let me explain to you. Let me go back one time, and I'll explain to you what I'm hearing right now. Her voice is right on the reverb.
It seems like yesterday I was on my own.
See, so it seems like yesterday I was on my own, and you hear how the reverb is right there on top of the vocal, real close, just slightly after. But think about it, and the key word on here, seems like yesterday. When you hear that, use your imagination plugin to imagine reverb detached from that and stretching those words. So.
It seems like yesterday I was on my own.
See, the reverb should be back there.
I was lost and wondering which way to go. Then you came and changed my heart.
See, so my imagination plugin is hearing that reverb, trailing those things out, because she's saying her word is separate. But what's happening is you're doubling up on the message. This is so important. That's where pre-delay comes in. She's saying her word, but then the echo of the reverb bouncing back there doubles the message up again. So you're getting the message twice. You're getting the message subliminally twice. First of all, is that an epiphany for anybody? Because I know a lot of people, they struggle with this, especially on dealing with effects, reverbs, delay, and everything. They just kind of put them on and find a preset that sounds good. But you listen to my reasoning why I'm doing this. You guys are getting serious high-level coaching here for this, but I don't hold things back. I can't do that, so I'm giving you all the little inner working stuff that's going to take your stuff to a whole different level that other people don't get this thing. They get all that technical stuff, This is the stuff that really just takes you to the next level. And like I said, you got to get it up here first. I'm hearing the type of reverb it needs right away. The reverb that's on there is okay. It's a reverb sound, and it's the natural thing there's a lot to do. But I'm not going for a reverb sound. I'm going for the message. Her message is saying there. So what I'm trying to do is okay, if somebody's listening to her, what's going to emotionally work with them? And for this one, separating the reverb from her vocal gives you that message subliminally twice. It hits you bam, bam, right after, the reverb we hear bouncing off the back of the walls. We hear that yesterday bouncing off back after the wall. So without her having to say it or without having to delay it, just puts it right in your face and everything. It's a subtle thing. It's bouncing off the wall back there. That's a yesterday. And that's perfect for that word, that paints that picture like Myron is saying. It's, I'm listening to that and when she's saying all these things, and it doesn't have to be a long reverb too. Keep in mind when I'm saying this, because this song doesn't need a long reverb because it's going to get denser and everything. It's going to be more of a medium reverb where the reverb travels, but it gets out the way so that the other stuff can be heard clearly. So I'm not talking about long reverb, but the key is a medium reverb that stretches a little bit so that you kind of think of the words that you just heard back there ghostly, but the pre-delay gets the reverb off of the vocal, okay?
It seems like yesterday I was on my own. I was lost and wondering which way to go. Then you came and changed my heart. You helped me see.
The C would get stretched.
Beautiful, I couldn't find inside of me. One look and you set me free. I held on to the darkness, regrets. Now I watch this disappear. I'm done with all the heartache, mistakes, letting go of my fears.
See, all that's coming in and doubling up the message afterwards subliminally. See, right. It's not a bad reverb sound, but it's not helping the message. See, it's not a bad reverb sound. It is a reverb sound, and that's what, most people would do that don't know about the subtleties would leave it at a nice reverb sound. Okay, I got a nice reverb on there. Okay, and then they move on. I'm talking about the message here. This is the difference in the way that I teach in my vision mixing method. Because you're going to visualize what this song needs to get the message across, get the groove feeling right, get everything that's tied in emotionally. Everybody seems to forget music is an emotional experience. It always has been and always will be. The best people pull that part out. And the people that are, stuff sounds, okay, that's nice, but then folks move on to the people that understand this. So when you're one of the ones that understand this, you're the one that people will pay attention to their message, And so this is very, very important, very, very key to what's going on, is understanding as you're listening these things. This is why I love doing these kind of coaching and mentoring sessions. This is the kind of thing that I do with my one-on-one clients and everything too, because we strive to bring the message out of the best of what's actually in the song, as opposed to just throwing plugins on because somebody's. I got a message just last night from somebody asking me about a plugin that was coming out and how to apply it. And they were asking me about the tape machine, in fact. And I was saying, yeah, those are absolutely great things. I use them all the time. But if they're appropriate for what I'm trying to arrive at the time, because not everything needs it. I don't put tape machines on every instrument. I listen first and using my imagination plugin to tell me, does that need the approach that was back in the day of tape? Like this one, the first question I asked about the piano is like, okay, some of those high notes are jumping out, other ones are subtle and lost. I need to bring it a little closer together. Do I want to put a compressor on? Yes, two choices. Do I want to put a compressor on, or do I want to compress? Which one's the more important of it? Have compress it to control the dynamics. Well, I don't want to put an actual compressor on. My thought process said I need to just bring this stuff a little closer together, but I want to keep it natural. The natural way to do that is just to run it through a tape machine, which is going to give me some natural tape compression, which is going to make it sound like I'm imagining it wants to sound. Even if it isn't totally 100% there, it'll get it closer to there. I already know that's what's going to happen because of my experience of dealing with tape machines, But I don't put it on every instrument that's on this song, because every instrument doesn't need it. Does it need it is the whole key question. If it doesn't need it, then don't do it. But if it does need it and it'll help the cause, then you move towards it. Okay, Myron was asking, how do you know your devices that much to be able to recall the nuances of implementing that correct the right device to meet your vision? Okay, so Myron, this is the stuff that you do like in times like this, when we have these sessions and you're playing in your downtime. Don't wait till it's game on time when you have to deliver something, you got a deadline or whatever. You practice with this stuff. This is exactly what we did. This is exactly how engineers and producers can go to different studios, and then they find out one studio has a certain compressor that's in rack slot number 3, a certain color and everything. You see, they got different ones. Some might have a black face, other might have a silver face or whatever, and different ones have different. They just do something different and magical. And as you work in that place, you get familiar with it. It's like, oh, that one, something, something's kicking out. So put my thing through that one particular one, even though there's an identical one right next to it. It's like, no, I want this one right here, because you've gotten familiar with what it does. It's the same thing with your plugins, your tape machines, like I have the two main ones I use, or the two main ones that I used in real life, was Studer and Ampex tape machines. And so, I know that they both have different sounds and everything. And so when I'm going for certain things, depending on the sound I'm listening to, my mind will right away say, oh, that needs to go through the Studer. Or the other times I'll say, oh, that one needs to go through the Ampex, or sometimes it needs to go through a multi-track versus a 2-track. Sometimes it needs to go through 1/2-inch tape as opposed to 1/4-inch tape. Sometimes it needs to go at 30 IPS per second, as opposed to the other times it may need to go to 15 IPS per second, which is inches per second. That's how fast the tape travels. I know back in the day, from just knowing and doing your history and research, and when I first got in, a lot of things were done at 15 inches per second on the tape machines, because it was thought to make stuff a little fatter, because the tape machine was moving a little slower. It was just a quality. And when they put it and doubled it to 30 inches per second and it's moving faster, well, then that's clearer and a little sparklier or whatever, but it doesn't have quite the same bass and low end. So this is something that somebody like Bruce Swedien, who was the engineer that did Michael Jackson's Thriller and all his other big hits and everything, he was a master of knowing stuff like that and recording stuff going in at the right tape speeds, and the tape thicknesses for certain things. Even if you may transfer or whatever, knowing these different little nuances make a huge deal. So you just have to play with your plugins and put the same thing through different things and see what happens, and say, okay, I put this Studer on here and I like it. Let me try the different versions of the Studer. Let me tweak some of the inputs and output things, some of the tape settings and formulations and everything, and get to know what they do for different things. And, try it with something that sounds great, like a drum, then a bass, then vocal or guitar, piano, whatever, just things that you're very familiar with, and then run it through each one and say, okay, now let me do the same thing with my Ampex, and let's see what the difference is. Let's put them both on and let's A/B them and see which one I like better. So I do that many times. Many times I might start out with the Studer and say, Studer ain't quite doing what I wanted to do. So let me try the Ampex instead. So, I'll mute the Studer out and put the Ampex on and make a decision between the two. And then the one I don't feel is giving me what I want, then I'll take that back off. I'll delete it. Okay? So let me continue on with this. I'm not going to spend too much longer on this, but this one I felt has a lot of things that will help a lot of people here. So let me just play it some more.
Everybody got a story that needs to be told. It's hard to go against the wind and stand on your own. If you just believe in that fire, the beautiful inside of you will rise in the end. Trust me, I've stood where you stand. I held on to the darkness and regrets. Now I watch them disappear. I'm done with all the heartache and mistakes, letting go of all my fears. And what was I hiding from? I thought I was the only one. Got the sunshine, I'm alright. No love has gotten me here.
Okay, so let's talk about this into the chorus and things like that. So the thing about the chorus, so I'm hearing a couple of things. Let's talk about the drums first of all. We've got the drums going on. The drums are sounding pretty tame and insignificant, and they're very important. They need to have an up to roll in here. They're feeling good, but let's listen to it one more time.
You rise in the end. Trust me, I've stood where you stand.
They need to be a little bit sparklier, but they sound good.
I'm done with all the heartache and mistakes, letting go of all my fears. What was I hiding from? I thought I was the only one. Got the sunshine, I'm alright. No love has gotten me here.
So the main thing with the drums, to make them come out and make this part come alive, is the drums. The kick drum doesn't sound bad at all. It just probably needs something to get it out of the way. The kick drum doesn't need to be that hard. That's a decision that can be made later on, whether it needs to be harder or not. And whether it needs to be fatter or not, the recording of it sounds pretty good. So I would defer some of those situations, some of those uh, situations of trying to decide if I need to put, you know, an EQ to boost it up, or if I boost up low end and things like that, scoop out and everything. My main thing is let me see if if the kick drum is taking up too much space in areas of other things, so I need to get it out the way. So that's where I'm thinking between that and the bass. The kick drum and the bass need separated in the low end so that they can rule what's going on down there, you know. And they both sound good, so it's just a matter of making the decision who's going to rule down there, and then the other role that the other one plays in the low end. So the kick drum could either be on that, the, you know, the main push and fullness of that punch there, or it can be doing a little more aggressive knock, and the bass could be kind of holding and stretching it out. Those are the decisions that you know, I won't fill that in for you right now. That's one of those things where I would make a decision on which one I thought played the more important role in the low end, and then try it, and then also play with a couple of balances. But then the other part is the drums we're talking about, is making the drums need to just be sparkle a little more. They're just very flat sounding. So the snare drums in particular needs to have some kind of crisp hit on there. You know, the snare drum is a nice fat sounding snare, so it needs to maintain the fatness, but it just needs to have impact on when it's hitting that. You know, and then the other thing is the cymbals. They're definitely getting lost. You know, so they need to sparkle and everything. They need to be thinned out on the low end and have the high end and upper mids and highs and stuff come through, because that's the drive. You know, let's play this again.
Me, I've stood where you stand. Trust me.
See, so we hear those tom fills and then the crash. The crash is it doesn't feel like a crash. It's just kind of a high sound there. But we need to hear that that's a crash to take us into the next transition. So it needs some high end to sparkle and everything, or yeah, it just needs to sound a little more excited and everything. And
I've stood where you stand.
and then here's the thing: I want you to listen to the hi hat as this part plays.
I held on to the darkness and regrets. Now I watch them disappear. I'm done with all the heartache.
See, we need that eighth note bounce.
Letting go of all my fears.
You need that bounce. That lifts this section up. Eighth notes. So we need that bounce to happen in there, you know. So we needed to bounce up in that part there. So that hi-hat and those cymbals and everything. What else? The tom fills, as you hear, they're very uneven, you know, so the toms would need to be evened out sounding, so that it sounds like a full kit spread out, so that it sounds like it sounds like you're listening to what's going on with the kit. Some people do it from the drummer's point of view, some people do it from the audience's point of view. To me, that doesn't matter as much as just making a decision one way or the other. They both work. I've seen it done both ways, and I've done it both ways. Sometimes I'll do it according to the other stuff that's in the music. So since this song has a piano, the way I always do piano, and think about this, a lot of people don't, you know, a lot of times when I do piano, and most people do piano like this, is when we're listening to the piano, the low end is on the left side and the high end's on the right side. Just like if you were standing by a piano player and watching over their shoulder and watching them play, you know, where they're playing stuff in their left hand and their right hand. But here's the difference, you know, as an audience listener, you don't really hear it that way. You know, you're hearing it just the opposite. You know, you know, as an audience member, and if you were standing on the other side of the piano listening, you'd hear the low end on the right and the high end on the left, because you're facing them as opposed to looking over their shoulder. You know, but nobody really listens to a piano that way. You know, if they're going to listen to a piano and hear it coming over speakers. The left side represents the left hand and the right side represents the right hand. That's the piano player's view, even though the audience doesn't, in real life, doesn't see that. So this is a case of when you're mixing music, some people try to simulate real life, and that's really not the case. We're trying to simulate an experience that mimics real life, but it doesn't have to mirror real life, because like I said, in real life, if we were watching a piano player, unless we're right over their shoulders and everything, we're actually going to hear it opposite, and really when you're farther away from the piano as an audience member, it all kind of blends together anyway. So anyway, let me move on. Like I said, that the drums need that to drive the song, because this is the engine now. We're into an important part of the song. Beautiful inside of you, rising in. Oh, and the other thing here, the snare. So the snare definitely needs compression because he's doing little ghost notes and stuff like that, little, all that. So we need to make sure all that stuff doesn't get lost. It's getting lost right now. Those subtleties, we want to be able to hear the drummer do that. That's where using compression in a skilled manner will help you hear all these things, Plus on this drum kit, may or may not require, but something as simple as parallel compression might help it out, although that may make it too poppy to use a word, whatever. So that's may or may not be the first choice I do. I would try to build it into the sound that I have, because like I said, this song overall, I would want it to maintain more of its organic feel. Okay, but I'm listening to those little ghost notes and stuff like that, and they're getting lost. See that the toms got lost in that part there. That we got to hear all that stuff. Trust me, that crash needs to feel like a crash. I've stood where you stand. I held on to the darkness and see. Okay, now on this part, here's a whole nother handoff. She said, when I stand into the darkness, and we got a guitar. That's called call and response. So we got to make sure that we maintain that in a good way. And there's a couple of things that are part of the call and response in that section, including in the vocals. I held on to the darkness and regrets. Now I watch them disappear. I'm done with all the heartache and mistakes, letting go of all my fears. Okay, and then the vocals, we hear that. A couple of things in the lead vocal for what we were talking about on the reverb, and possibly even adding delay to this and everything. In the darkness, you should want them to imagine darkness afterward. In the darkness, these days, so they hear these things subliminally. Like I said, now I wouldn't. I would go for that feel with what we started with the pre-delay on the reverb, so that it isn't it isn't avert in your face darkness. I don't want that. I mean, I'm not saying that can't be in there, but right now I want it to be the organic repeat from reverb, not a definite overt repeat from digital delay, because we could put a digital delay on there and the digital delay can come right after that. That's too much. It's artificial. It's too much. So this is in keeping in the spirit of what this song is, and being inspirational and everything. We want people to imagine it. They're singing it to themselves in their head. So reverb sounds like it's something in your head. It sounds like an imagination thing, as opposed to me putting a delay. Some people might interpret what I'm saying now, so don't go overreach the other way and say, okay, Khaliq said put a delay on there, and suddenly they got on there and you got darkness, and then all that. I'm not saying that. That's too much. It's not in the spirit of the song. That repeat comes from the subliminal sound of hearing the reverb bouncing off the back of the room, and it stretches out her vocal. It makes you think about what was just said twice, okay? And Myron was asking about parallel compression, you know, on the drums we were talking about earlier. Yeah, so I would keep that in mind because I might want to use parallel compression. I might want to use parallel compression on her vocals as well, things like this. Anything to just kind of keep things right up there in your face and all that. These are the little things I would use to build the emotion of what's going on within this song behind the scenes. Okay, all right. So there's a couple things that are in there. Okay, so I'm not going to stay on here too much longer. Let me go through this song and I'll make you guys a couple other things. But you, what was I hiding from? Okay. I thought I was the only one. Okay, and then the background vocals there, they're not separated enough and they're getting lost. So on something like this, I would definitely find a way to separate them out to where they enhance the lead vocal, you know, because they don't need to be as loud as her. She's making the point and they're just kind of being there, but they're kind of getting swallowed up. So I would, you know, first of all, they may all be going through the same reverb or something like that, and I wouldn't do that. I would have those background vocals have a completely separate space of their own compared to her vocal. You know, for this type of song, in fact, I would just give her own vocal effects, period. And they're just hers. Nothing, nobody else is going through that. You know, then the backgrounds for a different thing, and I'd EQ them and put them in a different space where they're all in their own place by themselves. Okay. And let's do the sunshine. I'm all right. Oh, love has got me. Oh, and then that bass needs to be, the bass needs to sound like, you know, it needs fatness, stretching, richness. So it needs some kind of, probably needs some kind of, well, compression will help lengthen some things out and all that. But going through the right thing, probably running through some tubes, um, maybe something some kind of tube thing or whatever that adds a saturation or whatever. Maybe even a combination of tube and tape or whatever. Plus the type of EQs. This is the type of song that I would probably use something like a Pultec or something like that to get that low end to really resonate out there where it's kind of like sounding like the voice of God, you know, like God was Barry White, had that big low voice booming at you, that bass should just kind of go through there and carry that, but be in its own space where it's still clear, where you can hear the piano nice and clear, because we got to still remember the piano is where all this started. So we got to keep that in its own space where we should be able to hear and feel that through the whole song, you know. See, now this part, the background vocals definitely need their own space. They're not sitting out and not separated enough. So this, you know, this should remind me of a choir and things like that. So one thing that I would probably do is find a way to double up the background vocals to make them fatter. Definitely make them wider because they need to be away from her. She needs to have the whole center stage by herself, and then the backgrounds need to sound wide and fat. So I would make them wider, and then probably double them up in some kind of way, either electronically or duplicating the track and treating it slightly differently. To, you know, whatever I'm gonna do, you know, there's a lot of different ways of doing that to add fatness to a duplicate and then process it. But I would want to widen that and fatten those up where it sounds like there's more voices, you know, running it through um, different effects, you know, that modulation effects that can make it sound doubled up, you know. Whatever you would choose, there's a lot of ways to do it. Now, like I said, do you hear as we go through different parts of the song, if you were still paying attention to the piano, you hear how the piano still keeps getting lost in and out. Certain things are popping in and out and all that. So this is why I said it was very important up front, because the piano is the stabilizing force through this whole rhythm section, you know. So we got to make sure that that piano, all the little nuances that it's doing are suddenly getting lost out there. Certain things poking out, and then other things you just can't hear them at all, and everything. It's important to strike a decent balance with within how that's controlled, and then the way the compression, I mean, the way the EQ um, sets it into its own space and get everything else out of the way, so that you can always hear it through, through most of the song, unless the song gets really dense, but it still should blend in really good because it's a really important player. See, those background vocals should be huge, along with her off to the side. And then that bass should be like the voice of God, like I said.
Held on to the darkness,
and we drop back down.
Regrets, no, I watch them disappear. Done with all the heartache and mistakes that they go over my fears. What was I hiding from? I thought I was the only
So you hear the piano doing them little moves back there. We're losing all of that right now. You should hear that bass clearly. That bass melody should be going clearly. And those background sunshine should be, that should sound rich and big choir sound. So we need to double that up and fatten that. Oh, and then let me point one other thing out. Say, here's my other imagination plug-in. Is on that guitar. When that's doing that, when they say sunshine, whatever they're saying, I'm hearing the guitar and it's hitting a certain sound there. But my imagination also says it needs to have a slap back on the opposite side. Sunshine, imagine. So, it's a slight slapping back off of the wall where you can kind of hear it. So that's where what I would put on that, because that keeps with the rhythm. Like I said, that eighth note. Ding, 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 ding. So, when we add all these things on, that groove, once it's going and everything, everybody's riding on it right there, so the guitar, and then she's saying her vocal, sunshine, sunshine, with the back, with the reverb off of the vocals, or whether it's a reverb by itself or a blend of reverb and delay, it's bouncing off the back of the walls, but it keeps that groove going, that just keeps it rolling. We got the hi-hat, like I said, clearing that out where that drive comes in, that everybody's strengthening each other, so the groove just keeps getting strengthened. Okay, so let me check back in with you guys and say, because I like I said, I get excited with this stuff, and I like pointing out the nuances. And I know a lot of you don't get a chance to understand the thought process, but you see there's a lot going on in my mind as I'm listening, and still, I'm like I said, this is before I've even touched anything. This is before I've even touched anything. I can get a clear picture of where I'm trying to go, what this song needs. This is why I say, and when I go over to here and show you guys it in the structure part, starting out the right way, it'll help you avoid over processing and doing too much for the wrong reasons. It's very important to get onto listening a lot. Like I said, I mentioned before, this is my Abraham Lincoln method, whereas Abraham said, if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I would spend 4 hours sharpening the axe. Well, this is my sharpening the axe. It's just a lot of listening and knowing exactly what I want to do before I start doing it, not just blindly doing stuff for no reason. I would be off on a mission now. I know this song and what it needs. I know how the vocals need to sit. I know how the bounce needs to feel to make this song feel good. I know when it builds up to the climax towards the end, how everybody should be gelling together and working together to get the biggest fatness. I know what needs to be stretched already. I know what needs to be separated out from other things. I know in my mind already, I already kind of know what'll make this to the next thing. So then it's just about me getting in and finding the things to do and trying it. When I say the guitar, like right now they have the guitar pan slightly off to the right. Well, I might listen to it and listen and compare it. And then what I would be listening to is other mid-range instruments, like for example the piano. Well, we know the piano is going to be fixed where the low end's on the left side for the left hand and the high end's on the high side. So the piano's hitting that thing. I mean, the guitar is hitting those upper mid chords are towards the right side, where the piano is also playing on the right side where it's high chords. So I may want that, or I may want to leave it, but I'm gonna consider that I might want to move the guitar over to the other side because the piano is playing low end stuff. So if I put the guitar, which is higher, you're still going to hear the piano, and then the guitar will be above it frequency wise because it's playing different things, and then I can make the reverb bounce happen on the right side. So I'll have all this stuff in my mind before I even touch anything. So I'm thinking about, well, because that might clear it up, and that might save me from having to do a lot of EQ to make that guitar fit on the right side and blend in with the piano where it doesn't mask it out. It could be something as simple, just move the guitar over to the other side. There's low end over there and stuff. The guitar is above it, so we can hear both of them. So does that make sense to you guys? I'm checking in with you again. Type in and let me know that uh, I'm getting through and everything is making sense. I'm not just going off on wild tangents or whatever. I've been known to do that as well. Uh, Give me a little feedback, baby. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. Uh, Myron was asking if there were arrangement changing, arrangement things needed. Would I send it back to the arranger, composer, or producer before mixing? Yeah, I would only do that if there was a problem. The bottom line is if somebody's hired to arrange, that's their job. It's not my job to be the arranger. It's not my job to be the producer. I might do things differently, but in a way, I end up being that de facto. Once it's turned into me, then I have to take the arrangement and arrange the arrangement. So if the arrangement itself is good and good, solid, basic thing that can be worked with, and they're happy with it, which is the most important thing. That's really all I care. Are you happy with where you're at? You think it's ready to go? Then I'll give my assessment whether if something is so bad and egregious that I just can't work and move forward, then I'll send it back and say, listen, I just can't do anything. You guys got to address this. But really, nobody should be sending it for mixing with something, that's that problematic. I should never receive, or anybody should never receive something that's not ready for prime time. One of the things that I stress to everybody here, because I consider you guys professionals now. You're at this level where you're trying to take it to the next level, and you should always conduct yourself where you've done all the stuff up front where can't nobody say, what the heck were they thinking? You want to know that when you deliver it to somebody, one of the greatest compliments I got that I remember when I was young and first starting, I was working with Jeffrey Osborne for years. And after having worked at Lionshare Studios for Kenny Rogers, but then I started doing independent stuff, and I ended up with Jeffrey. He loved Mick Gazowski, who was one of the world's greatest mixers and everything. But Mick really complimented me on just how organized I always delivered the stuff to him when I was recording and pre mixing things to get it prepared for him, labeling, cleaning up, things like that. So he was always very complimentary to me. That's like, wow, man, you really did a great job preparing this for me, so I don't have to do a whole bunch of stuff. So it's very important to, you ought to have your pride factor about you that don't, if you're a producer, arranger, or whatever, and once it's time to go to that next stage to be mixed and finalized, make sure that you did all the stuff to, you know, deliver it to the next person in the chain at a professional level where they don't have to struggle. Your tracks labeled properly, things lined up the way they need to be, edits done, no straggling things, no extra stuff that ain't supposed to be in there, but it's like, yeah, that's in there, but I just got it muted, but we're not supposed to use it. Well, how would I know it? I'm going to unmute it and use it because I just think that maybe you just forgot to do something. If it's not supposed to be in the track, take it out, little stuff like that. Um, anyway, I'm going off on my tangent, like I said. So uh, I wanted to address that and just say that that's a very important thing. So Myron, yeah, I would very rarely have to do that unless it's very, very bad. You know, it has to be super egregious for me to actually send it back. You know, I figure by the time it gets to me, they've done what they want. It's like, okay, that's what you want. Now, in one case, I was working with somebody that I was trying to help them because they, you know, they were good musicians and all that, but they didn't really hear the nuances like I heard. So it was a timing issue where they couldn't. This stuff just it sounded, you know, it had a decent sound, recorded decently and all that, but the timing was just really kind of all over the place, you know, and I help them find a way to get the timing better and tighter because I'm like, listen, you're almost there. Why stop short? You know, the timing just ain't lining up. I would show them that, listen, okay, you know, let's put on a click track and just see what's going on here. You know, and it's varying things, a lot of times when it's going into different sections, you know, people tend to rush when they're playing live and they don't necessarily know that they're doing it. So the thing is you don't know what you don't know. That's a huge thing, you know. So remember that you don't know what you don't know. You know, you don't know it until you learn it, and then you know it. You know, so there were so many things like that that I had no clue of. That you know, after years and everything, getting things pointed out or somebody else catching it, then you start knowing. So I'm trying to save you guys some of this stuff. It's very, very important to make sure that you get on the right track with making sure things are tight, making sure things are edited and in the proper format beforehand. So anyway, that gave me a pretty good idea. I stayed on that song probably a little longer because I felt it had a lot of elements that will help everybody a little bit more, you know. So I think you know, you guys can take this regardless of whether it's this song, the concepts that I gave you, you can take it to anything you're working on right now and definitely elevate it to that next level. So this is why I love doing these kind of things, because group coaching like this, where you can hear different people's ideas and everything, can really trigger you in a lot of ways that you may not have thought of. So with that being said, I think I'm going to run over to, let me see, what was the other one I had? Oh, before I get in here, let me check in. Hey, uh, okay. Yeah, Sterling, too. We're gonna talk, man, because I want to see for your session and everything. Maybe dig into your tracks, and you know, if you've got a Studio One session or Pro Tools session or whatever, see what's actually inside the tracks that we're gonna work on, and then we can, you know, I really can help you a lot better that way, you know. But also, I can't remember. Did you send me, Sterling? Type it in. Let me. Did you already send me a song? Because I can't remember receiving anything from you yet. So type it in and let me know. And if not, we'll go ahead and take care of some of that. And in fact, if you got something that you want to pop in here today, I could probably get it in here because we're gonna go maybe another 15, 20 minutes. I'll pull up another song and we'll talk about it, and then we'll call it a day for this one. But I think there was a lot of good value in here. Uh, well, I'll wait for Sterling. I'll wait for you to reply, and I'm going to go ahead and set up this next song. Okay. Okay, I'm going to get a DA here. Okay, do it.
When you live in an old mill town, you'll spend your life on the poison ground. When you live in an old mill town, don't let that mill town grind you down. When you walk down a Milltown street, Don't stare at the people you meet. Look away as you walk on by. Don't let them catch your eye. Milltown got a hold on me. Milltown won't set me free. Milltown boy, Milltown girl, got no future in this world. Milltown boy, Milltown girl, got no future in this world. Ain't seen you round here before. Don't wanna see you round here no more. Round here no one jumps for joy. You ain't from round here, are you, boy? Life is tough in Milltown land. No one there to lend a helping hand. No one there to take your part. They'll break your bones and steal your heart. Milltown got a hold on me. Milltown won't set me free. Milltown boy, Milltown girl, got no future in this world. Milltown boy, Milltown girl, got no future in this world.
Okay, so you guys get the idea on this one. I don't want to spend too long listening. We don't have that long. So a few things. It's the same process too. You know, when I'm going through, like I said, on something like this, and I receive this like it is, my imagination plug-in goes in right away to figure out and think, well, what can this be, first of all? So the first thing, you know, like I said, to do this process always helps, you know, drawing a line down a piece of paper and then write on the things that you can start taking away to solve problems and things that might need, you know, decreasing or removing or whatever to clean things up. And then the other side, you do whatever the opposite things that are going to enhance and add to it. So one of the first things is on a song like this is there's first of all, let me say this, there's potential in this song. For some reason, this song reminds me of like a Billy Joel type thing. Where I don't even know if that's accurate on it, but that's what just kind of popped into my mind, you know. So one of the things that I'm thinking as far as feel wise and everything, I think the balance of the instruments are not capturing the feel at all. It's really sounding clogged because it's got too many things that are out of balance in the wrong place. For example, the bass is really, really loud in this, and it's a nice melodic bass, so it has a place, but I'm not sure it's serving the song in the best placement where it is right now, you know, because the other thing that's in there is it has guitars, it has keyboard, you know, piano, and a lot of other things in there, and we're not really hearing that stuff, and I'm tending to think that this song is more of a piano song. Well, it actually depends on the section. I think it's more of a guitar song in the beginning, you know, during the verse parts, and then when it gets into the chorus, I think it hands it off to the piano. You know, so I think those two instruments need to be very clear, and they're not clear right now. So the other thing is the vocals are just, you know, really need to be put more in balance with each other. The background vocals, you know, like we had those oohs come in where they're saying the Milltown Boys, we get the ooh, those oohs are way too loud because you know, it's the oohs. They don't. It's not that important, so they don't need to be up there. It's not like their lyrics. We're gonna hear those things, so they could be sit back to provide a mood. They don't need to be front and center. They're almost just as loud as the lead vocal, and so you know, balance and blend needs to happen with that. So with a song like this, one of the first things that I would probably do is make sure that I take out almost everything other than the foundational things. And the other thing is there's several distracting things for my ear, you know. Now, when I mention all these things, this is just like I said, these are first impressions, and I'm not saying that they're mistakes because you know, as the composer and producer put this stuff in there, you know, they did stuff for a reason at the time, and so all I would do is have them reassess the overall reason to get back out. So one of the things that I would do, for example, is for me, the toms that kept coming in were very distracting. You know, for one reason, you know, well, yeah, they're too loud for one reason, for one thing, but then the other thing is they're a little out of time or something. They're throwing the groove some kind of way, you know. So when I go back here, let me go back to uh, see, so in that intro, we got all that little sparkling stuff going on. So all that stuff is nice. It'd be nice to be able to hear it, you know, the little movement stuff going on in there. Right now, we're hearing the drums and the bass droning along. And I don't think there's so much that the bass is too loud. It might be a little too loud, but there's just something about it. I don't know what it is, but the bass is definitely being highlighted. It needs to be highlighted somewhat for that low end because it's carrying on an important part, but it's not quite right yet. See, it's way louder than everything else. So I mean, this doesn't sound like a band right now. You know, it's that's like way in front of everybody else. And then the drums, I would tighten up the drums. The drums are too loose sounding, and the reverb is not the right reverb on that snare. Way too long of reverb for that snare for this song. See, as a rule of thumb, the faster the song, the shorter your reverb and stuff should be because you want it to get out of the way. This reverb is a little too long for the speed and tempo of this song, so it's dragging out a little bit and it's kind of smearing. So you don't even hear the backbeat. And listen to those toms. See, that's to me that's a bunch of distracting chaos there. I understand why they wanted to do it, and I'm not suggesting we get rid of them. But for one thing, they need to be EQ'd out of the way of all that other stuff because what's going on in there, the important thing that's going on is see that now this is a case where the bass is nice, it's playing a nice melodic. Doom, 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 doom. So that's a nice melody that people are going to sing in their head. The piano along with that bass and the guitars, those three things should be working together and we should hear those. Those are what's driving that section, you know. Ding, 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 you know, the piano's doing the little goose egg type of things that lay down the different spots of that. That's what's important and we should hear clearly. So this is where EQ will get all those things that have a separate place and blend in with the bass, and that's your groove. The toms are like taken away from it because they're too loud. They're slightly out of time. So I don't, you know, that's one of those things where I would get in and just edit those toms. If you're using something like Studio One or Pro Tools or any of those that have a way to analyze the transients and detect them and put them more closer to a grid, then you can get everybody kind of lined up a little bit more, you know, or you can have one thing line up to the other, so everybody could line up to the groove that the drummer is playing or whatever, and keep it all locked in. That's the only thing really that's to me is the problem. The drums don't sound bad. The keyboards and the guitars and all that sound bad. So the first thing I would do is mute those toms. Just get rid of them for now and build the song and build a foundation based on without the distractions. Just get that solid foundation. Then I would take those toms and pull them all the way down and then start snaking them back up and make sure I get them loud enough where it can maybe hear it to give them the effect that they wanted, but they don't have to be loud. And also, like I said, that's a case of maybe EQing it to get some of that stuff out of the way because the toms are put in there, and I'm assuming it's to enhance the motion, but right now it's fighting the motion because they don't feel like they're quite exactly in time with everybody else. So we need to edit it, like I said, but also EQ it in a way where once the main drum beat is going, the drums, the guitar, and the piano are going and driving it in the bass, and they sound like a good solid thing. That tom part should be snuck in just underneath, and it should not start disrupting what we've already settled in as being a great foundation. If it starts disrupting it, it's too loud. Pull it back or find a different way to process it. Then the other thing that if they wanted to have those toms on there and they're trying to do it for motion too, I might want to run those toms through a digital delay to some kind of way trick up the beat some kind of way. Maybe even try some dotted notation things on there to not make it the standard quarter, 16th, or eighth note delays. I'm thinking some kind of syncopated thing might work good in there to help those toms fit into a slightly different space. The other thing that could be done with those toms too is they could just simply be processed in a way where they no longer sound like toms per se. They can be a sound, but we can just jack them up as much as we can, run them through something that's going to distort that sound and make it its own little thing so it becomes a unique thing. But at the same time, while I'm thinking of that, like I said, the big problem with them right now is because they're coming in and they're distracting. I guarantee you that if we use the mute button and take them out and play that verse, the verse will sound better. Then you put them in and the verse will sound like it's being distracted. So that's how I would make the decision. So I would probably, I would keep that as an option as far as putting a delay on and distorting and making it into a weird sound and everything. But really, I'm thinking probably not. I would only do that when I put it on and it still wasn't quite giving me what I wanted, the unique thing. And then the biggest thing that I would do is I'd say, okay, we want to feel those and not necessarily hear them. But then if the producer or the writer or the artist or whatever said, no, I really want to hear those tones, that's why I put them in there, I like them and everything, then I'll be like, okay, well, let me think how I can make this work. Then that's where I would start trying to think about if they've got to be loud, they've got to be heard, then they got to sound special and on purpose. Right now they're wrecking the groove a bit, so it's not accomplishing the goal. So these are little things that might come up. Okay, okay, so I think let's move through here too. And like I said, when they were going through the ooze on the background and stuff. See, so you got that Milltown boy, and you got the piano playing ding 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 ding. They're doing all those little walk downs. All that stuff needs to be clear. That's where it is on that chorus sound. Then you got that guitar playing the wah wah thing. They're going on a waka, waka, waka. So that's a rhythmic thing. So that can be felt. That doesn't need to be heard real loud. But you hear those oohs or ooh. It doesn't need to be that loud. It's too loud. It's distracting. It's just oohs. So they need to be treated in a way where they kind of sound there. But what we need to hear and what's getting lost is the main message. Milltown boy, Milltown girl. We're hearing those lines get that whole chorus line from the lead vocal kind of get lost. Okay. Milltown girl, got no future in this world. See, and then that's a transition part. We've had an electric guitar in there, distorted and everything, but you can't really tell it's in there. So that's one of those things where when we're going into that transition, that it should be like known. Yeah, this is a transition. So I would make that electric guitar stand out in a way. And see, I'm not always talking about volume. It needs to be processed in a way that when you hear it, it's coming in for a reason and it's elevating that section before we drop back into the second verse. Ain't seen you around here before. Don't wanna see you around here no more. See those toms back there? Round here, no one jumps for joy. See, those toms are right now. There's something about the toms inherently that's just, for me, it's either the wrong pattern, placement, because they're not as loud in this second part, but they're still distracting the groove, you know. So that might be one of those things where you know, you can do groove quantize where you can put it in there because they might need to be let me go back and just listen to what they're doing, because I think they can work. I know what they were going for, but it's
here no more. Ain't seen you around here before. Don't wanna see you around here no more. Around here no one jumps.
See, everything should be, those toms should be working with that bass. You know, whatever kind of thing, they should be working with the toms and the bass should be working together for that little syncopation thing. And you know, a lot of that low end, low mid stuff needs to be scooped out, and that just needs, the toms just need to be attack parts so that they become like a percussion that came in on a conga or something like that. That's kind of what I think that they were going for. So with that tom sound, though, it's very distracting. The timing is not quite right, so that would be that type of thing that I would. Now that's a case where I might just send it back to them and say, hey, listen, can you go in and just tighten up these toms? They're a little loose compared to the groove, and then I would show them compared to the tom. You know, I would probably solo the drums, bass together along with the toms, and maybe along with the piano, and say, see how they're kind of not lining up on the same things. Even if I had to show them on the grid that they're not lining up, you know, my ears, I'm not going according to a grid that I see or anything. I'm just going according to my ears. It's like something ain't matching up, you know. So if they could match it up where it enhances the groove instead of distracts from the groove, then I think it could work, you know. So but if they can't do it or won't do it or whatever, and I had to make it work, then I probably go into those individual toms and see what can I do to fit these better in. You know, maybe I might need to mute, put them in for a few things and mute a few other notes, you know, cut them out, mute them, whatever, move them one or two around. I'm not trying to make too much work for myself and rearrange it. So I want it to be in there, but I want it to feel good so that when they hear the playback, they don't say, well, what happened? Where's my toms? You know, or anything. I don't want them to be gone. I want them to be in there, but I just want them to feel right and they fit, so that when the whole groove is playing, they're hearing the toms, they're hearing all the other stuff working, but everybody's gelled together, and it's not distracting. Okay. So anyway, let me go through a couple more things and then we'll wrap this up for today.
Steal your heart. Milltown got a hold on me.
See, we should be hearing those piano parts. That's,
Girl, got no future in this world.
see, the drums are non-existent right now.
Broken lives and shattered dreams, busted hopes torn at the seams. Fat bottom girls, tattooed thighs, believing all those.
The other thing on those toms is I would definitely they're too long as far as decay wise. They're sustaining through that whole thing. So that's another part of the distraction. To just when I'm listening to it, I just keep hearing this low drone that just keeps bugging me. And so if, like I said, if I couldn't change anything, they're absolutely intent on keeping it the way it is in there, then I would tighten up the groove. Also, I would run the toms through a noise gate or something like that, something that could tighten up how the decay works on them so that they can fit better and get out of the way of some of the other stuff. It's just too much going on right now.
Teenage girls pulling clams around.
So you hear all that low drone in there now?
Smoking fags, spending benefit pounds. Absent dads get it all for free. That's Milltown.
The other thing that I would probably do as an executive decision and see if they complained about it is I might not even put those toms in they're in every section that comes in like that. I might just put them in one section or one part of a section or whatever, leave them out and make them so when they come in, it's like, so something different happened, but it's like, you know, might choose strategic places to place it, because to me, it's just, that's the one thing, that's the biggest challenge and problem that's I think is happening within there is those toms. The rest is balance stuff like that and all that, but those toms are really, to me, destroying the groove. Just my opinion. But that's how I feel. I feel the toms are destroying the groove as presented now. Now I would go into the session like I said. Now I could probably make them work by tightening them up with gates and um, EQing out some of that low end that doesn't need to be in there, and just make it where it's more of a percussive element, and maybe tricking it out with some sound and delay and things like that. But right now, for me, that's the one thing that I would keep muted. I would just mute that, pull the faders down and mute it, and I wouldn't even mess with it for a while, because it's like I got to get the main song, the main group of the song, and it's not that important. Those toms are not an important element that make or break the song. We can live or we live without them. You know. So anyway, I hope that gives you a good insight. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up now, guys. And uh, okay, Sterling, cool. You have a Pro Tool session? Yeah, send it to me, man, and I'll take a look at that, and we'll hook up tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it, man. Working with you directly, and everybody else, I hope you guys got a lot of value out of this. I really wanted to dig deep, and I hope you didn't have a problem with me staying on that one song a little longer than I normally would have for this session. But like I said, a lot of people didn't get their stuff in, so I thought that would be a good one for helping everybody get some great insights. So if everybody's cool, any final things anybody wants to say in the chat or whatever? If not, we'll go ahead and wrap this up for today. Oh my God. What the hell happened? Oh, I think my session ended. Oh no. Hey guys, I just noticed my looks like my stream stopped streaming for some reason, and I don't know where it stopped and if it stopped recording. Oh my God, that's crazy. I hope not. Did you guys still hear everything that I did? Okay, that's weird. Okay, it's still on YouTube. Okay, as long as it's still coming. I'm getting a thing that's saying my stream health is not good right now, so something happened. Okay. Well, anyway, you guys got a lot of values. The main thing is those of you that were on here and were able to show up for this live one. That's what happens sometimes. That's why it's always good to show up live too, because sometimes these recording services, they work and they don't. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't work. So I don't have any control over that. But those of you that were here live and got a chance to see everything, that's how it works out. So I'm glad you guys were here. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end this now, and hopefully everything else is on the recording. And what I'm going to do is when I first announced this, I set up a members area. So I'm going to take these recordings and place them into the members area where you guys can check this out again. And I'll let you know when I have that done. Okay. So anyway, everybody have a wonderful weekend, and I will catch you guys later.